I have got an amazingly good video for you today. I'm going to be sharing with you the tool that blew my mind and saved my business. And I actually don't think that that's an exaggeration. Had I not discovered this tool and started applying it in my life and my business, I don't think I would be in business today. It is that important. So, I want to share it with you. Sorry, coffee. I want to share it with you. So, let's get into it. Before I share about the tool, I want to give you a little bit of backstory because I think that it's important for you to understand where I was and how this tool helped me and affected me. Okay. So, years ago, I was really struggling in business. I did not know what I was doing. This was before I was coaching. I didn't know what I was doing. My income was up and down. I would have months with like zero revenue. I was in a constant state of panic and stress because everything felt incredibly hard and nothing that I was doing was working to grow my business and to have me feeling like I was thriving as a business owner. I constantly felt like a failure. It was very disarming because I had not really failed horribly, miserably at anything before. I was like the overachiever, the kid that got good grades, the person that knew how to like charm their boss. And I was really bad at business when I when I started business and actually for a lot of years. And it was horrible. It felt horrible. And I couldn't understand what I was doing wrong because on the surface, I was doing everything right. I was doing the things I saw other people doing. And I could not for the life of me understand why is it that these other people out in the world who are seemingly less talented than I am, obviously doing much better at business. Like, what the heck do they know that I don't know? And it was really hard. And this was even after I had invested over $30,000 in different business coaches, online courses, programs, all to help me figure out what am I doing wrong, right? And so to say that I was like defeated and on the edge of giving up is kind of an understatement. My confidence was tanked. I felt defeated, deflated, exhausted, kind of hopeless, honestly. Geez. I kind of felt really hopeless because it was like I had been the person that was like positive. I have these big dreams. It's going to happen. Like, like believing so much in myself and what's possible. And after years of never really feeling like I got it or like things were really working, I lost hope, especially after investing and spending so much money. And so I was on the edge of like essentially giving up. And one day, somebody mentioned to me the name Brooke Castillo. And I knew that she had a podcast. So at the time, I was listening to lots of podcasts. I casually started listening to the podcast, not expecting a whole lot, but just like, yeah, I'll try this out. And what she shared in one of the episodes blew my mind. And honestly, almost in an instant, I knew that this was like a very crucial piece of the puzzle that I had been missing. And upon learning this tool and starting to play around with this tool and starting to apply this tool, things started to change. And the first things that started to change is I started to have all these aha moments and all this awareness around why I was failing in the way that I was. Up to that point, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm doing everything that my coaches and these programs and people on Instagram are all telling me to do, and it's still not working. And then I started working with this tool and I saw why those things weren't working for me. I knew on a deeper level what was going wrong. And that is just the beginning of what this tool allows you to do. But even if it were to only do that, it's incredibly powerful because to see for the first time why something isn't working and to really understand why something isn't working is is invaluable in business, right? And so for me to see that was like, oh my gosh, I finally have the answers. I mean, I felt like someone has given me the keys to the castle here. Like, why have I gone this long in my life without knowing this? And I felt so passionate about it that I started spending a lot of time working with it and applying it and playing around with it and all these different things. And it really changed the trajectory of my life, the way that I think about business, the way that I assess business, the decisions I make, the way that I think about myself, the way that I look at my own behavior. Like, it's just incredibly, incredibly powerful. So that's why I want to share it with you today. And I want you to know also that this is me introducing this tool to you. I'm going to be sharing the basics. I'm going to be sharing some examples. And then if you're in my programs, you know that I go deep using this. If you've been on other trainings where I've talked about this, you know that this is just the beginning. But for those of you that aren't familiar with it or want to refresh, that's what this is all about. Okay, so let's get into it. So first of all, what is this tool used for? Excuse me. What is this tool used for? So it's used to properly identify problems, meaning identify the root of a problem so that you're not solving the wrong problem. Lots of time in business, I see this in my clients all the time, and it used to be me. I would be solving the wrong problems. So I'd be pouring a lot of time, attention, energy, and resources into addressing something that wasn't even an issue, when the issue was actually a like deeper under the surface issue. So it helps you identify and get to the root cause of certain problems. It helps you, I gotta shift my outline here. It helps you on a deeper level understand that problem, where it's coming from. And then through all of that, it helps you resolve the problem and essentially dissolve the problem so that it's not blocking you anymore. Because when you have a problem in your business, that is the equivalent of a direct block to growth and goals. And so those problems are the same thing as just big obstacles. I think of them as big roadblocks. If you're here and your growth and your dreams are over there, these problems are like big boulders that are in your way. And so it's your job to address them, solve them, and remove them so that you can move forward. And that's what this tool helps you do. So what is the tool called? It's called the model. I also refer to it as a thought model. More often than not, I call it a thought model because it involves our thinking, and that's what I'm going to get into. So how does it work? So I want to introduce you to the basic components. You're going to want to write this down. I'm going to write it on my board. It's 5 lines, and they are circumstance, and I'll be talking about what each of these mean in a moment. Thought, feeling, and actually feeling can sometimes be interchanged with energy or emotion, action, and then result. Okay, I'm just going to double check that you can see this, that my board is showing. Okay, awesome. So write those down. You want to know those. They are important. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what each of these mean and how it's going to work when you start to use this. So this is really, excuse me, sorry. Hopefully this cough will not get worse and get better for the remainder of the video. So this is really an understanding of you and how your certain aspects of what you're doing play a role in your behaviors and your results. Okay, so the way that it works is there are circumstances in the world, right? A circumstance out in the world is something that is something that is going on, something outside of you. It's something, it can be tangible, it can be intangible, but it's essentially kind of for like sake of ease, we're gonna say like person, place, thing. Okay. Now we have you as a human has thoughts about things going on in the world. So when we're presented with something in the world, then we have a thought about it. So this circumstance in our brain will trigger a thought. Some of those thoughts are conscious thoughts. Many of those thoughts are unconscious thoughts. That's kind of irrelevant at this point. But what you need to know is that your brain is having a response to things going on in the world, right? That thought then triggers an emotion. So the way that your brain and your body are wired is your thoughts will trigger the emotions caused in your body. Now, sometimes something might happen in your world or in your life, and immediately you just start to feel a certain feeling. Let's say somebody says something to you that's uncomfortable, and you start to feel uncomfortable or anxious. Well, it's actually that there was a thought in there, likely an unconscious thought, that triggered that feeling. So before I got into understanding this, I thought, oh, well, things that happen just make me feel a certain way. I didn't understand that there was something deeper going on inside of me in terms of the way I was wired to cause the feelings. And that's important. Okay, so now your feelings drive your actions. So we know this because you can imagine when you're really depressed, you're going to take different action than when you're really energized, right? And that's an extreme example. There's a whole nuance of emotions, right, that will drive different kinds of action. When you're inspired, you're going to take very different action than when you feel defeated, right? And so understanding your emotional state and how your emotions actually influence the actions you take is a very big piece of business success as a CEO, as a business leader. It's really important to understand your emotions and understand your own personal patterns. Okay. And then, excuse me. And then all of these things together create your results. So sometimes I like to look at this as your circumstances plus your thoughts plus your feelings plus your actions equal your results in business, right? Okay. So how do you actually start applying this and using it to figure out what's going on with you and your business and solve some of these deeper issues that are getting in the way of your goals and your growth and your dreams? So let's look at that. Okay. So, all right. So this first example that I have, I always write it out. So we're going to fill in these lines. So I always just do the abbreviation because it's a whole lot easier. So we're going to fill in these lines. So let's say that you are looking at the aspect of marketing in your business. So the circumstance, I often also kind of describe this as a topic. Sometimes it can be a topic when we're looking at it. So let's say marketing is what we're looking at here. And let's say that you're like, well, the problem here is I know I need to do marketing in my business. I know that's an important piece of business, but even though I keep creating content, I'm not sharing it. Like I just keep creating it and I have it on my phone and it's not ever being shared. So what we would do here, what you would do, is you understand that action or lack of action is a problem about what's going on. And that's a piece of what we need to solve here, right? And so you ask yourself, okay, is not sharing the content, is that a thought? And a thought is like a, a phrase or a sentence or a string of words that goes on in your brain. Um, is it an emotion? Is it an action or lack of action or a result? And so in this case, it's an action or a lack of action. So not sharing marketing content. All right, that's what you would write in the action line. Because what we're trying to do here is we're trying to identify like what is going on under the surface as to why this is happening. This is this first like identification piece, right? So then what I want you to do is then you would say, okay, well, why, like, how are you feeling when you're not sharing the content? When you think about sharing the content, you go to share that content, and then you stop, what emotions are going on? Okay, and then let's say that you say, well, kind of insecure, unsure, and doubtful. Okay, all right. Well, we know that these kinds of feelings aren't necessarily driving forward progress. Those kinds of feelings are the kinds of feelings that slow our progress and slow us down, right? So we already can start to see, okay, well, this is part of the problem. And then we go a level deeper and say, what's causing you to feel this way about sharing your marketing content? And so then I want you to identify, what is it? And maybe this person says, well, it's not good enough. Maybe I don't know if it'll work. Okay, so right here, we can see on a deeper level, it's not necessarily, the problem isn't necessarily that she's not sharing. The problem is that she doesn't know if her content is good enough, or she thinks it's not good enough, and she doesn't know if it will work. Okay, and then, excuse me. So here already, like we don't even need to fill in the result sign. Here already we can see, okay, this is where the problem is originating. It's originating from these thoughts going on, right? And so what most people would do, if they hadn't outlined this and they weren't looking at this, what most people would do in order to solve this problem is they would be like, well, I just need to force myself to share. And a lot of the solutions that people suggest in our world are like set a schedule, set an alarm, write a plan, that sort of stuff. I don't care what you calendar block, what reminders you set, how many times you put it on your list to share your content. If this is the deeper thoughts going on and they hold a lot of weight for you, it doesn't matter how long that thing is on your to-do list or how many reminders you set, it's not going to work. And this is where most people try to force the change, is they try to force the change at the action line. But in order to effectively do this, and I don't like that anyway, because that requires a lot of force. You're having to push up against this type of energy and this kind of thinking in order to do the action, which is why it's tiring and stressful and hard and exhausting and all those things, because you're trying to use energy reserves to overcome the problem. I don't want you to use energy reserves to overcome the problem. Here, this shows us we just need to change these thoughts. Because if these thoughts were to change, it would be this ripple effect where it would change your feelings, which would change your actions. And I'm not going to get into it in this video, but it's 100% possible to address your thoughts and rewire your thoughts. So I'm like, why don't we rewire your thoughts instead of you pushing up against this deeper under the surface problem that's going to continue to drain your energy that you're never really going to get over with just pushing an action, right? So you can see already how you can, if this were to change to something that might make you feel, I don't know, maybe let's say like willing or, I don't know, curious or something like that, willing and curious is already going to get you different actions than doubtful, insecure, unsure is. Okay? So that's my first example. I was going to give another example, but this video is getting kind of long. Let's see. No, I'm going to give the other example. Let's do it. Okay, so this other example is sales. Okay, so let's say in this case, the problem is that you have people that are interested in working with you, but when you get on a sales call, they seem to change their mind or they're not saying yes. They're not buying once they actually talk to you. Okay? So that we have to say, okay, is that a thought? No, that's not a thought going on in your brain. Is that a feeling? No. Is that an action? Well, it's maybe somebody else's action, but no, it's really more of a result. So I'm going to put people interested, not booking after call. You could maybe even put pulling back after call, because in this case, the problem that I'm describing is they're interested, they're fully interested, and then they're not. Okay, so I always want you taking full responsibility for the problem, instead of trying to cast blame. That's what this is all about. You can't really. This is for you, right? How can you improve yourself or identify ways that you're thinking and being that might be influencing the issue? So, first of all, then we would look at, okay, what's the action you're taking in this process? Okay, well, you're having a sales call. You could put like talking to prospect. Okay, well, that's fine. That doesn't seem like a problem. That's something that you kind of got to do. Maybe not everyone has to do a sales call, but maybe this person is doing sales calls. That shouldn't be an issue here, right? So then we need to look at, okay, well, the action isn't a problem. Like in the last example, the action was the problem. That it was this resistance to sharing. And we know that that's not going to serve you in business, right? But this person is doing the right things. So now we need to look a level deeper and say, okay, how are you feeling while you're on the call? And for someone who is honest with themselves, in touch with their emotions, maybe this person says, well, to be honest, I'm kind of feeling a little desperate and a little nervous. Okay. Well, interesting. So we say why? What's causing you to feel desperate and nervous? Maybe this person says, well, I really need this client. I need the money. I'm worried that my business will fail without it. Okay, so that's the thought. That is a thought. So I need this client. I need the money. I'm worried my business will fail. Okay, whoa, all right. So now we're able to see what the problem is, right? This is the problem on the surface. This is the surface level problem, right? That's where we started. But when we work back, we can actually see these two things are the real problem because these two things are somehow creating this result. So then we need to look and say, okay, well, how is it possible that you being desperate and feeling like I need this client is causing this result? Well, it's pretty clear that if you're on a sales call with someone and someone seems really needy and desperate and nervous, they're probably not going to set that potential client at ease. They're probably not necessarily going to feel like inspired or whatever. We've all had those interactions where a salesperson seems like they really want you to buy, right? And that generally is like kind of off-putting. So this is influencing that person's energy and causing them to second guess, right? So this is about changing this. Again, changing this. Now, does it mean that this is going to completely disappear? Maybe, maybe not. We can rewire things for sure. But it's also about what can you be thinking instead to shift this energy so that that client on the other end is feeling warm and loved and invited and inspired and confident instead of feeling like, ugh, there's something off here, right? Okay, so those are the two examples that I have right now. You can start to see how really identifying the deeper problem um, that is the root cause, essentially, is what it is. The root cause of this is so incredibly important because then we can go in and we can rewire those thoughts. We can address those emotional feelings. You are in control of, and I mean, I won't say 100% control all the time, but you are in way more control than you realize of your thoughts and your emotions. You have massive influence over your thoughts and emotions. Most people just don't know that, and most people don't know how to work with that, how to influence their thoughts, how to influence their emotions. But once you know that, it kind of puts you back in control in the driver's seat. And you can take any problem in your business whatsoever, you can do a thought model, you can address the deeper root cause, and then you can dissolve the problem. And so it's just the most amazing tool. It's such a game changer. Um, Especially if you suspect that like you might be the problem. And I hate to say this, but if you're someone who's been doing a lot of the right things and nothing's really working, using this might be a huge aha to you, like it was for me. Okay. So, like I said, we're kind of just scratching the surface of thought models and how they can be used and how amazing they are in terms of understanding. So if you want if you want to learn more about thought models, if you want to get really good at thought models, I consider this a piece of the overall growth process, like the overall business growth process. I consider the model a part of problem solving. And that is piece number 4 of 5 within like a growth process. So obviously you understand at this point why problem solving is so incredibly important, because otherwise you're just going to keep bumping up against those invisible obstacles and never get to your goal. So if you want to learn more about problem solving, how to do it, what it looks like in the overall process of business growth, those like 5 steps for business growth and goals, then I have a training you can check out. It's called 5 Steps to Make More Money in Your Creative Business without Stress and Struggle. This goes in depth into what are those 5 pieces of the puzzle and talks more about them. So absolutely check it out. Even if you're like, well, I don't know if I want to make more money, this still is a great training for you It's essentially the process that you will use to purposefully, intentionally grow your business and overcome those blocks and move forward to the results that you want. Okay? So I will see you next video. I hope you have a wonderful day.